The year was 2145. Humanity had spread beyond Earth, building homes on Mars, Europa, and Titan. United Earth Space Command has maintained peace throughout the solar system. Most people lived normal lives. They went to work, raised families, and rarely thought about what might exist beyond their little corner of the galaxy. Commander Natalie Ford was in the USD Valiant, stargazing. His ship patrolled the outer edges of the solar system, looking for pirates, smugglers, and other threats. 12 years in space taught her to expect the unexpected, but nothing prepared her for today. "Commander, we are detecting an object at the edge of our sensor range," said Officer Ryan Green. His voice was firm. Ford could see the tension in his shoulders. "Natural or artificial?" she asked, walking to his station. "Definitely artificial. It's small, about the size of a car, and doesn't move like an asteroid." Green pointed to his screen where a small dot was blinking. Ford nodded. "Wake up Lieutenant Harris. Tell him to prepare a drone for a thorough inspection." 30 minutes later, Ford and his team watched video from the drone as it approached the mysterious object. "Definitely not one of ours," said Lieutenant Ben Harris. He was the ship's technology expert. "Design is not human." The object was smooth and oval in shape, with no visible windows or doors. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing with a faint blue light. "And that?" Police Officer Kelly Martins didn't finish the question. They were all thinking the same thing. Ford took a deep breath. "Yes, I believe we are looking at alien technology. The first confirmed evidence of intelligent life beyond Earth." The crew was silent. This moment would change human history forever. "The drone is 10 meters away," Harris said. "Radiation levels are normal. There are no signs." A sudden flash of light filled the screen. When he cleared it, the alien object was gone. "What happened?" Ford demanded. Harris typed frantically. "It's self-destructed, but not before sending a powerful transmission into deep space." "Do we record the broadcast?" Ford asked. "Yes, Commander, but I can't understand this. It's not in any language or code that I've ever seen." Ford looked at the empty space where the alien probe had been. "Send everything to Earth. Tell them this is the priority." Back on Earth, Dr. Peter Clark sat in his laboratory at the Global Science Institute in Denver. For 3 days, he barely slept or ate. The alien transmission consumed all of his attention. "You should rest," said his assistant, Sam Wright, placing a cup of coffee on his desk. Clark shook his head. "I'm close to something." The computer identified patterns in the signal. Wright looked at the screens covered in strange symbols and waveforms. "Can you translate it?" "Not completely, but I decoded fragments." Clark pointed to a series of symbols. "This sequence appears several times. I believe it is a warning." "A warning about what?" Clark turned to the right, his expression grave. "It says, 'Do not disturb the sleeping giants.'" Wright's eyes widened. "Are we the giants?" "No," Clark said calmly. "I think the message was about us. Not for us." Someone out there was warning others to leave humanity alone. That night, when Clark finally fell asleep, emergency alarms sounded across Earth's defense network. A huge object has appeared at the edge of the solar system, moving towards Earth at an impossible speed. Humanity was about to find out why someone warned the galaxy not to wake it. 6 months after the probe incident, the huge alien ship entered Earth's solar system. He moved slowly, as if trying not to appear threatening. The ship was beautiful in a strange way, with smooth, curved lines that seemed to flow. Go like water frozen in time. All military bases on Earth went on high alert, fighters fired. The orbital defense platforms aimed their weapons at the visitor. But the alien ship made no aggressive moves. It simply stopped near Mars and waited. "They are transmitting message," said Officer Martinez on the bridge of the USC Valiant. Commander Ford was ordered to approach. "The alien ship first." "Past that," Ford said, straightening his uniform. A face appeared on the main screen. The alien looked almost human, except for the golden skin that seemed to glow in the eyes with diamond-shaped pupils. When he spoke, his words were perfectly translated into English. "People of Earth, I am Ambassador Krell of the Sorelian Confederacy. We come in peace and friendship." 24 hours later, Ford was in a conference room at United Earth headquarters in Geneva. World leaders and military commanders filled the room. Ambassador Krell sat across from them, flanked by 2 other aliens. "His arrival raised many questions," said President Eric Daniels. "Most importantly, why did you come now?" Krell nodded. "I understand your caution. The truth is that humanity has been monitored for centuries by what we call the Galactic Council. Murmurs filled the room. Ford watched the alien carefully, looking for signs of deception. Your species has been quarantined. Krell continued. Most space civilizations believe that humanity is too volatile, too aggressive to join the Galactic Society. The Council voted to let them develop isolation until they matured or destroyed themselves. So why break this quarantine now? Asked General Maria Collins. Because his recent experiments with quantum communications violated quarantine protocols, Krell said. And because another faction now knows of its existence. Dr. Peter Clark, who had been invited due to his work on the probe message, leaned forward. The sleeping giants, that's what the probe's message referred to. Krell turned to him. You decoded the warning. Impressive. Yes, many species fear humanity's potential. The probe was sent by allies who wished to keep its existence a secret. You mentioned another faction, said Ford. Who are they? Krell's expression darkened. They call themselves the Vex Domain. While the Sauralian Confederacy believes in cooperation and peaceful coexistence, the Vex believe in control and conformity. They see emerging species like their own as threats to be contained or eliminated. The room fell silent as the implications sunk in. Are they coming here? Asked President Daniels. They are already on their way, Krell said. We came to warn you and offer our help. The Vex believe that humanity should be eliminated before you expand beyond your solar system. General Collins stood up. We will not be eliminated by anyone. Earth has powerful defenses. Krell nodded respectfully. Their weapons are impressive for their technological level, but the Vex have been traveling through space for thousands of years. So what chance do we have? Asked someone from the back of the room. There is something about humanity that the Vex fear, Krell said. Something that caused the Council to quarantine you rather than make contact. We ourselves do not fully understand this. Ford remembered the probe's message. Don't disturb the sleeping giants. Later that night, as Ford looked out the window at the stars, Dr. Clark joined her. Do you think we can trust them? She asked. Clark shrugged. I don't know, but I've been thinking about that warning. What if I wasn't warning others about us? What if it was warning us about what's inside us? Before Ford could respond, alarms sounded throughout the building. On all screens, an AL news report showed several large ships appearing near Jupiter. The Vex had arrived. The Vex battle fleet hovered in space near Jupiter, like a storm cloud made of metal. Their ships were angular and sharp, with no smooth edges or curves. They looked like weapons, built just for war. Admiral Susan Reyes stood on the bridge of the UESD Guardian, the largest warship on Earth. 5 other human ships flanked his ship, forming a defensive line. Behind them, Ambassador Krell's Sauralian ship waited. They're saluting us, said Lieutenant Greg Porter. Reyes took a deep breath. No SCR, yes. The alien that appeared looked nothing like the golden-skinned Sauralians. This creature had gray skin that looked like it was made of scales. His eyes were black and cold. When he spoke, his voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. I am Traz, commander of the Vex Domain's 3rd Fleet. You will hang up your weapons and prepare to receive our terms. Reyes stood tall. This is Admiral Susan Reyes of United Earth Space Command. You entered our solar system without permission. State your purpose or walk away. Dras made a sound that could have been laughter. Bold words of a primitive kind. We are not here to conquer your worlds. We are here to avoid a mistake. What error? Reyes asked. The mistake of letting humanity spread beyond this solar system, said Dras. Our studies show that your species is very aggressive and unpredictable. You would bring chaos into ordered space. Reyes felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. You came to judge us without knowing us. This seems unfair. We know enough, said Dras. Here are our terms. Humanity will dismantle all spacecraft capable of interstellar travel. You will enjoy all the quantum communication experiments. You will return to your planet and remain there under our surveillance. If you agree, you can live. If you refuse, we will eliminate the threat you pose. The bridge was silent. Reyes looked at the faces of his crew. They were scared, but she also saw determination in their eyes. We need time to discuss your terms, she said finally. You have 24 Earth hours. Dras replied. The screen went black. Back on Earth, world leaders gathered for an emergency meeting. Ambassador Krell attended, offering advice and support. The VX do not make empty threats, Krell warned. They have destroyed civilizations before. President Daniels looked around the table. Options. We fight, General Collins said immediately. We may not have their technology, but we have courage and determination. Fighting would mean millions dead, another leader argued. Maybe we should accept their terms, at least temporarily. Dr. Alan West, head of the Earth Defense Technology Division, has remained quiet until now. There is another option, he said softly. Everyone turned to look at him. Project Phoenix, he continued. It's experimental, but it might give us a chance. I ordered this project to be terminated, President Daniels said sharply. It was very dangerous. West nodded. Yes, sir. But we haven't closed it completely. The core system is still functional. Daniels looked worried. The risk is less than extinction. West ended. After hours of debate, Earth's governments voted. The decision was unanimous. They would reject the VX ultimatum. They would not give up their future. Admiral Rice delivered his response to Commander Drass when the 24 hours were up. Humanity will not be confined to one world, she said firmly. We will not give up our right to grow, to explore, to reach the stars. Its terms were rejected. Drass' black eyes showed no emotion. So you chose extinction. We'll start with your outpost on Mars. When communication ended, Rice received a coded message from Earth, with the Phoenix rising. Hold the position. In a secret facility deep in the Arizona desert, Drive West activated a system that had never been fully tested. As power flowed into the ancient machines, lights flickered across the Earth. Something was awakening. The battle for humanity's survival was about to begin. The attack on the Mars colony came without warning. The VX ships appeared in the red sky like dark stars. They fired beams of energy that cut through buildings as if they were made of paper. Alarms sounded as the colony's shields began to fail. Captain Jack Miller ran through the smoke-filled hallways of Mars Defense Station Alpha. His ship, the UESC Defiant, was docked nearby. If he could reach him, he could save some of the colonists. Captain, a young officer named Paul Jones stumbled toward him. Most evacuation ships are destroyed. There are 5,000 civilian Liens with nowhere to go. Miller grabbed Jones by the shoulder. The Defiant can hold 800 if we pack them well. Tell everyone to go to Dock 3. We'll make as many trips as we can. But, sir, the VX ships. We'll have to catch up first, Miller said. Now go. As Jones rushed to spread the news, Miller arrived at the command center. The screens showed the battle taking place outside. The colony's few defense ships were being destroyed one by one. Status report, Miller demanded. Lieutenant Carla Bishop looked up from the console, her face pale. Shields by 12%. Most weapons are offline. And there's a VX landing craft heading for the main dome. Miller made a quick decision. Transfer all power to shields around civilian sectors and docking in Bay 3. We are evacuating. For the next 2 hours, Miller and his team worked frantically to load the Defiant with as many people as possible. The children cried. Their parents kept them close. Everyone knew that not everyone would escape. That's all we can accommodate, said Miller's first officer, Frank Cooper. 823 people. Miller looked at the thousands still waiting. We'll be back for the rest. The Defiant turned away from Mars when the colony's shields finally failed. Miller watched from the bridges. VX soldiers entered the domes. He turned away, focusing on the difficult flight ahead. Trace a path through the debris field, he told Cooper. We'll use the wreckage as cover. 3 VX fighters spotted them and pursued them. The Defiant shook as enemy fire hit its engines. We can't outrun them, Cooper said. Miller pointed to a group of wrecked ships ahead. We don't need to overtake them. We just need to be smarter than them. He took manual control of the ship and flew directly into the debris field. The Defiant barely squeezed between 2 large wrecks. The VX ships, built more for power than agility, were unable to follow. One fell. The others retreated. The Defiant limped toward Earth, carrying its precious cargo of survivors. Back on Earth, Lisa Garner sat in her office at Global Intelligence Headquarters. As Director of Intelligence, she had access to humanity's best-kept secrets. For the past 3 days, she has been combing through old files, looking for anything that could help against VX. What she discovered disturbed her deeply. Dr. Clark is here to see you, her assistant said over the intercom. Moments later, Peter Clark entered his office. He looked tired, with dark circles under his eyes. You said it was urgent, he said. Garner nodded. I found something in the deep archives that go back thousands of years. She turned the screen so he could see. This is not our first encounter with VX. Clark looked at the images before Egas on the screen. They clearly showed spacecraft similar to VX spacecraft. According to the date, the images were more than 50,000 years old. That's impossible, he whispered. Human civilization is not that old. That's what we've always believed, Garner said. But these records suggest otherwise. And there's more. She pulled out another file. The Phoenix Project is not new. It is the reactivation of something very old and very powerful. What is it? Clark asked. A gun, Garner said calmly. Or, more precisely, a key to unlock a weapon that has always been within us. The wind howled through the Antarctic ice as the small aircraft touched down. Lisa Garner pulled her thick coat tighter around her body and looked at Peter Clark, who looked equally cold. Are you sure this place exists? Clark asked, his breath forming clouds in the frigid air. Garner nodded. According to the old files, there is a facility hidden under the ice. It was built before recorded history. They walked through the snow, following the coordinates of Garner's device. After walking for almost an hour, they arrived at what appeared to be an ordinary ice field. There's nothing here, Clark said. Garner took a small metal object out of his pocket. It was shaped like a disc with strange symbols engraved on it. The files mention this key. It was found in ancient ruins in Egypt 500 years ago. She put the puck on the ice. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the disc began to glow with a blue light. The ice beneath his feet shuddered and began to crack open, revealing a dark passage leading downwards. After you, Clark said nervously. They descended into the darkness. As they went deeper, the lights automatically turned on, revealing a tunnel made of a strange black metal. The walls were covered in symbols similar to those on the disc. This technology is not humane, Clark whispered. At least not human as we know him. At the end of the tunnel, they entered a vast chamber. In the center was a pillar of light that stretched from floor to ceiling. All around were what looked like sleeping pods, hundreds of them, arranged in circles. Garner approached one of the pods and wiped dust from its surface. Inside was a human figure, perfectly preserved. He looked like he might be sleeping. Who are they? Clark asked. According to the files, that's us, Garner said. Or rather, what we were. She walked to a control panel near the central pillar. It lit up at his touch. Images appeared in the air above him, showing stars, planets, and spaceships. 50,000 years ago, humanity was not primitive. Garner explained as he studied the images. We were an advanced civilization that spread across many stars. We fought a war against the ancestors of the Vex. Clark looked around the chamber in awe. What happened? We were losing, Garner said. So our ancestors created a weapon of last resort, something that would change the course of war, but at a terrible cost. She touched another part of the panel. New images have appeared, showing human DNA structures being modified. They changed, Clark realized. But how does this help win a war? They didn't just change their bodies, Garner said. They changed their minds. They gave themselves abilities beyond normal physics. Powers that could destroy fleets with combatants. Clark looked skeptical. If this is true, why don't we have these powers now? Because using the gun had consequences, Garner said sternly. It burned most of its civilization. The survivors decided to restart humanity, to start over as primitive beings, but they left the potential locked in our DNA. Dormant but intact, passed down from generation to generation. She pointed to another image, showing a device similar to the OneDrive West had activated with Project Phoenix. That was the key, she said, a way to unlock those dormant genes if the S-Vex algum dia retornissum. Clark looked at the sleeping figures in the pods. Els esteo vivos. De certa forma, dice Garner. I think his models were preserved to help guide us if the weapon was needed again. While they were there, Garner's communications device beeped. Ella attendo e uvu. Scu rosto ficando polito. The Vex destroyed our moon base, she told Clark. They are preparing for an all-out attack on Earth. Clark alhu para o pilar central de luz. So we need to wake up the giants. As if in response, the light pulsed more intensely. At every military base on Earth, soldiers began to experience strange headaches. Algo estava medando dentro deles. Major Steve Fletcher was in the middle of a meeting when he felt a headache. It started as a dull pain behind his eyes, then spread until his entire head felt like it was on fire. He gripped the edge of the table, trying not to show weakness in front of his soldiers. Senor, você está bem? asked Sergeant Kate Wilson. Fletcher opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. Instead, he heard voices, hundreds of them, all speaking at once. He could hear the thoughts of every person in the room. Ele neo FOI o unico affetado. Throughout the base, soldiers clutched their heads and fell to their knees. Some screamed, others simply stared into space, overwhelmed by new senses they couldn't understand. At a military hospital 50 miles away, Dr. Olivia Chen watched a scene of astonishment as brain scans of affected soldiers showed impossible activity. Areas of the brain that should have been dormant lit up like Christmas trees. "This is spreading," she told her assistant. "We are receiving reports from military bases around the world, always in the same pattern. It starts with headaches, and then improved abilities begin to appear." "What kind of skills?" asked his assistant. "A DRA. Chen exhibiu video, msuatila." It showed a soldier lifting a 2-ton truck with one hand. Another clip showed a police officer moving objects without touching them. "Strength, speed, telepathy, telekinesis," Chen said. "And it's spreading geometrically." The modified soldiers somehow trigger changes in others around them. At United Earth headquarters, Admiral Rice sat with Ambassador Krell. The Admiral's eyes changed color, turning from brown to a bright gold. "You knew this was going to happen," Rice said. "It wasn't a question." Krell nodded slowly. "No suspitamos. Ancient records spoke of humans as weapons. This is why the Galactic Council has quarantined your species. They feared what would happen if humanity ever remembered what it once was. Eok Aramos. Eras Perguntu. His ancestors called themselves guardians," Krell said. "They possessed abilities that seemed magical to other species. They protected younger civilizations from threats like the Vex. That power came at a cost. It consumed them inside." Rice levanted EFOI Ada Janela. Outside, she could see soldiers training. Some were now moving faster than the eye could follow. Others were communicating without speaking. "The Vex took over Mars and destroyed our moon base," she said. "A terra a proxima. We need to use these new skills, whatever the cost." Krell looked worried. "The cost may be your own humanity." Rice turned to face the alien. "If the choice is between losing our humanity and losing our existence, I choose the first." She left the room and went to the command center. The police were alert when she entered. Many of them now had the same golden eyes as her. "The Vex believe we are weak," she told them. "They think we are primitive creatures who can destroy easily. It's time to show them how wrong they are." She described her plan. Operation Hellfire. A counterattack to retake Mars using your newly awakened abilities. The troops would be led by Captain Miller, whose mind now processed information from the battlefield at superhuman speeds. "We will launch within 24 hours, Rice said. "Prepare your teams." When the officers left to carry out their orders, Dr. Clark entered the room. He looked exhausted but excited. "We have decoded more Antarctic files," he told Rice. "The changes are just beginning. As more humans awaken, the abilities will become stronger. The final stage is something they call unity, a collective consciousness that can coordinate actions across vast distances." "How long until we reach this final stage?" Rice asked. "At the current rate of progression, 3 days could be 4. Rice nodded. "The Vex need to be dealt with before then. If we become what the files describe, I'm not sure we'll even care about this war anymore. We may have bigger concerns." "Like what?" Clark asked. Rice looked up at the stars visible through the command center's skylight, as if he were reshaping the galaxy itself. The Earth fleet approached Mars under the cover of a sensor jamming field generated by its newly improved engineers. 50 ships moved in perfect formation, with crews linked by the growing telepathic network. At the front of the fleet, Captain Jack Miller stood on the bridge of the rebuilt UESC Defiant, his mind processing tactical data at impossible speeds. "Vex ships detected," Lieutenant Jones said. His eyes now glowed with the same golden light that marked all awakened humans. "They spotted us." Miller nodded. He didn't need the report. He could sense the Vex ships through his new senses. He could also sense the minds of human prisoners on the surface of Mars. His fear and pain fueled his determination. "All ships, Delta attack pattern," Miller ordered. The command traveled through the telepathic network instantly. The ground fleet broke formation, moving with a coordination no computer could match. The Vex responded with energy weapons that easily destroyed Earth's defenses just days before. But now, human pilots could sense attacks before they happened. The ships turned and turned, avoiding explosions that would have destroyed them before. Miller focused his mind and reached out to the other ship. Captains. Together, they created a mental image of the battlefield that everyone could see. In this shared vision, Vex ships appeared as red dots, Earth ships as blue, and human prisoners on Mars as green. Target their command ship, Miller ordered. 5 Earth ships converged on the larger Vex ship, firing in perfect synchronization. Their weapons, enhanced by the engineer's new understanding of physics, cut through the Vex shields as if they weren't there. On the Vex flagship, Commander Drass watched in growing horror as his fleet was systematically dismantled by the humans. They moved in ways that defied normal tactics, almost as if they knew what their ships would do before they did it. Impossible, he hissed. They were primitive just a few days ago. His second-in-command looked up from a scanner. Sir, their biology is changing. They are giving off energy readings similar to the old ones. Drass's scales paled. The ancients were figures of terror in Vex history. Beings of immense power who nearly destroyed the ancient Vex Empire before mysteriously disappearing. Order all ships to retreat. Drass commanded. We must warn the Dominion. But it was already too late. The Earth ships surrounded the Vex fleet, cutting off all routes to it. An escape. On the Challenge Bridge, Miller felt the fear in the Vex minds. He didn't like it, but he understood its value. This is Captain Miller of Vex Command. He transmitted. Surrender your forces and free your prisoners, or be destroyed. Drass hesitated, her pride conflicting with her survival instinct. Before he could decide, Admiral Reyes joined the battle in Earth's orbit. Unlike the other awakened humans, Reyes progressed further in his transformation. His physical body remained on Earth, but his consciousness now moved freely through space. She appeared on the bridge of every Earth ship simultaneously, his form shining with golden light. The Vex had their chance. His voice echoed in all human minds. She reached out with her thoughts to the larger Vex cruiser. The enormous ship closed in and imploded as if it had been crushed by an invisible hand. The display of power sent shockwaves through the Vex fleet. One by one, they turned off their weapons. The battle for Mars ended almost as quickly as it began. As human troops disembarked to free the prisoners, an emergency signal traveled through Vex communications channels to their homeworld. The message was simple. The Giants have awakened. The Guardians have returned. In a distant part of the galaxy, the Galactic Council has called an emergency session. Reports of the battle reached them, bringing terrible news. Humans weren't just remembering their old powers. They were exceeding them. The Council President looked at the assembled representatives of 50 species. We face a crisis unlike any other in our history. The quarantine failed. The weapons we feared most have been reactivated. A representative from a near-Earth world spoke. Perhaps these new Guardians are different from the old ones. Maybe they use their power wisely. Perhaps, said the President, but we must prepare for the worst. The transformation is not yet complete. 3 days after the battle for Mars, the transformation reached its final phase. What the ancient records called oneness swept over the awakened humans like a wave. Billions of minds connected in an instant, sharing knowledge, memories, and power. Commander Natalie Ford stood on the observation deck of United Earth Headquarters, watching the sunrise. His body looked human, but his eyes glowed with a golden light that sometimes flickered with images of distant stars. Beautiful, isn't it? Said a voice behind her. Ford turned to see Ambassador Krell. Yes, she said. I can see colors I never knew existed before, and if I concentrate, I can see past the atmosphere to the stars beyond. She paused. Was this what his people feared? That we would become this? Krell nodded. The records of the ancient Guardians spoke of beings who could reshape reality with a thought. They protected many worlds, including my ancestors. Homeworld, from threats like the Vex. But their power grew until they feared what they might become. That's why they chose to redefine humanity, Ford said. Start over as simple beings and evolve naturally. Yes, Krell said. But they left the key to their power hidden in their DNA, in case it was needed again. A soft chime sounded. Ford closed his eyes briefly, receiving a telepathic message. The Vex Dominion has sent a formal surrender, she told Krell. Your leadership will arrive in 6 hours to sign the peace treaty. Krell looked surprised. The entire domain. Not just the fleet that attacked you. All of them, Ford confirmed. After what Admiral Rice did to their cruiser, and after seeing our transformation, they decided there would be more conflict. Reckless. Later that day, Ford stood with Admiral Rice and President Daniels as the Vex delegation entered the Great Hall. The alien leaders moved cautiously, his eyes darting nervously to the glowing humans around him. Supreme Commander Vorx, leader of all Vex forces, approached the human delegation. His scales were darker than Draze's, marked with symbols of rank and age. "We offer our unconditional surrender," Vorx said, his voice monotone. "The Vex Dominion recognizes humanity's right to exist and expand. We only ask that you show mercy to our worlds." President Daniels, one of the few humans who chose not to undergo the transformation, stepped forward. "Earth accepts his surrender. We have no desire for revenge or conquest. All we ever wanted was to find our place among the stars." The peace treaty was signed without further discussion. With the departure of the Vex delegation, a new group arrived. Representatives of the Galactic Council. The president of the council, a tall being with blue skin and 6 eyes, approached Admiral Rice. "The council recognizes that humanity's quarantine was a mistake born of fear. We wish to establish peaceful relations with your kind." Rice nodded. "We accept your offer of friendship. But humanity will no longer accept restrictions on our development or movement." "Of course," the president said quickly. "But if I may ask, what do you intend to do with your new powers?" It was Commander Ford who responded. "The same thing the original Guardians did. We will protect. There are threats in this galaxy that attack younger civilizations. Forces that bring chaos and destruction. We will be against them." "And who will protect the galaxy from you?" the president asked softly. Ford smiled. "Let's go. Unity gives us not just power, but understanding. We remember the mistakes our ancestors made. We will not repeat them." That night, as Earth celebrated peace, Ford met with Dr. Clark on the roof of the science building. "What happens now?" Clark asked. "We have become something beyond human. Will we care about the Earth in 100 years? Ford looked up at the stars. She could feel the minds of billions of transformed humans, all connected, all part of something bigger. But she could also feel his humanity. "Your loves, fears, hopes, and memories. We'll care," she said confidently. "That's what makes us different from what the Guardians have become before. They have lost connection with their origins. We won't." She pointed to a distant star. "The Xerelians were right to warn others not to disturb humanity, but they didn't understand why." She smiled. "Stars do not burn intelligence-age destruction. They burn with potential, with hope, with life. And we will be there to protect everything," Clark said. "Yes," Ford agreed. "That's what Guardians do."